Yeah, so I'm doing Facebook Live. Is this an off
You are not
color?
Facebook Live.
Yeah, I'm doing Facebook Live, and I tagged all of you guys.
It's
Haha.
it's probably not appropriate though. Well, that's
Oh.
all right. Perfect.
Rissy's going to tell an inappropriate story. Go,
Here we go.
Risse.
So what was interesting to me was, okay, so first of all, we figured out this is the actual poster from the first Visual Studio launch. So March 1997.
Yeah.
Right? So what's amazing to me is how much happened between when I joined in 91 and what happened in 97. And in particular, there are a couple of moments that stood out in terms of the progression. The first one is, at some point in 92-ish, being in a room with not very many other people and Steve Ballmer being there and telling me in Steve Ballmer sort of terms that I was smaller than mouse balls and he hated me more than he hated anybody else ever in his life, and that if he ever caught anybody in his organization selling dev tools, he was going to fire them and then he was going to fire me.
I remember that.
I do remember that. I remember that.
Because he was selling. He was the head of sales then.
Yeah, he was, and so I was going trying to get attention for DevTools or something. But by the way, that was all said with a certain amount of volume and intensity that is not appropriate to repeat when that conversation happened. So
I don't think he hated you more than anyone in the world. That was Cornelius. It was Cornelius Willis when we were pitching MSDN Universal for the very first time. Ballmer figured out that all we were trying to do was route as much of the company revenue through our P&L as we could. And that's when and it was Cornelius who had to pitch it. And that was when he hated Cornelius more than anyone ever in the world.
But I would say you were pretty hateable too.
This was Visual Basic.
Although Roskill, you're.
But that particular example
particular
was
one?
Cornelius.
Okay, so but that happened, and then within a relatively short period of time, and I mean these seemed like eras when we were there, but now looking back on it, within 2 years it was, what was it? Developers. Steve Ballmer on a sweaty Steve Ballmer on stage going.
That was like the Java heyday. Yeah.
And then a mere short period later, in just 1997, so between 92 or 3-ish and 97, we had the year of the developer. So the progression from hated to developer to the year of the developer and the launch of Visual Studio.
Is that like the year of the dragon?
I think that was self-proclaimed.
That was kind of self-proclaimed.
I think that was Mike Werner trying to come up with some way to drive attendance and get field attention, even if Ballmer wouldn't sport it.
That is true, but this is an official Microsoft logo.
Yeah, official Microsoft logo. That's
With
really
an
hard to put
R
on a poster.
with a poster that says the year of the developer. So when I think back at the progression in the company from one end to the other of hated to year of the developer, I think that's pretty amazing.
So I remember the meeting we went into. You're talking about like the meetings where we got screamed at. I remember this one. We went in and we were doing Visual Basic Enterprise Edition, which was the thing right before Visual Studio.
Yep.
And it was source safe and remote OLE automation, and we threw it in a box and we pitched it and SQL. We got Rich Tong to give us SQL. And
developer license and SQL.
And we said we wanted to charge $1,000, $9.99 for it. And I remember Bill Gates in this meeting going, "There is no way people are going to pay you $1,000. There's absolutely no way."
And that started the escalation. That was that was BB4, wasn't it?
Yeah,
BB4 Enterprise, and then 5, and then Studio was. This was $1,500, if I remember right.
Okay.
MSDN Universal was $2,000 for the subscription, and that was $1,500.
So do you remember the original name of Visual Studio before it was Visual Studio?
No.
You mean the code name? Or the other thing we were trying?
If you go back to MSP is in effect.
Oh, that's right. Microsoft Solution Platform.
That's right.
I forgot we have a soundtrack.
Absolutely. No, we have the first ever
that's
developer
right.
rap.
I wrote I didn't write the white paper. I plagiarized the white paper.
John's
right.
older brother?
The younger brother.
Younger
brother, the rapper.
He's in effect, Joe.
That's right. What's the rap? Let's do it, you guys.
I don't recall that.
Come on.
You still have the file?
MSP is in effect.
I might have
y'all.
it.
I might have it too. In fact, I bet you I could find it. But
no, it was right after. It was in '94 when all the reorgs and all the developer tools stuff got jammed together, and it was and Bob Moo came over under Mike Maples.
And Don Trudeau.
And Bob Moo was the one that looked at what we had done with VB Enterprise and basically blessed it across the product line. And we pitched a thing called Developer Office. And Developer Office was supposed to be the developer analog to what Office was to the productivity worker. We had pitched a business plan for Developer Office to try to multiply our revenue and try to get shared technology wherever we could. And it wasn't until '96 when we looked at the branding options and we decided that it was really going to be a suite of creative tools, that we decided to call the thing a studio to separate a little bit.
Studio was a great name.
Yeah, it was Paul Gross who came in, I think it was in October of '96, which was, I'll let you share what that was like, but we had, Paul came in really in the last few months of trying to get this thing ready to ship. That was,
so
he hadn't quite gelled yet.
Oh.
you guys, Ut Schneider is watching this. Eric Maffey's watching this.
Which Ut Schneider? James?
Yeah.
James Ut Schneider!
Hey,
Hello,
he wants
James.
to know what you guys are eating. It's another great meal by me of Jimmy John's and chips. And look, I got fruit.
That's awesome. Hello, James, wherever you are, and Eric. I also found
Big fish in a small pond.
I also wanna know, why did we have an orange? Why did we have an orange ad campaign? That is a '97 ad campaign. So we figured out that was the earlier one. But why did we have an orange?
And then we went to the white with lots of bare space and tiny logo. Even though the thing only people knew anything about were our boxes back then.
Oops. I just spilled the Coke.
Small spillage.
Here, will you hold this for a sec while I go get paper towels?
Business is what it used to be. Because developers, nothing is like what it used to be. Because their work is not yet through. And we made new tools for them. That's the pithy we came up with.
Well, all right. I remember, as long as we've got.
There's a whole series of the orange ones.
I remember the orange ones, but I
I'll
also
take
remember
it back.
sitting in the room on the whiteboard where Tom drew the original infinity symbol square thing. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, we were trying to do the box.
I know, it's funny, and that the infinity still is a big part. Yeah, it's
So
still.
why is it infinity?
You don't remember?
I do.
I remember why. I remember exactly why. Corpcom came back with all kinds of proposals that all looked like a variant on the Internet Explorer logo. They were all like globes with things circling around them. And we ended up deciding at the time, it was the object wars of the world. And we were just coming out with ActiveX, which was our proprietary way to build extensions onto these apps.
I thought the X was silent.
Yeah, well, that was the.
Never.
So the idea was that we had two different worlds.
There we go.
We had
It's not a Visual Studio meeting unless someone's at the whiteboard.
exactly. So we had the two different worlds. We had the world of the intranet, so within your corporate boundaries, and the internet. And our idea was that we were going to slam a big old X, which was the ActiveX logo, that was going to finally going to allow data to actually move between them.
That is exactly correct, as I recall it.
Yeah.
That exact drawing.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to have an X. It was a little more, sort of like the Steve Ballmer thing. It was a little louder.
That's the dorkiest thing I've seen all day.
No, that's the X.
No, and that was why we did it that way.
By the way,
why
James is in Sicily. Go ahead.
And that was why the big chunky X was in the middle, is because we took it right off the ActiveX logo, and that was the technology that was supposed to provide the unification and the integration of the two different network worlds.
So, and you notice they're still using it. So it was a.
The whiteboard?
I don't think anybody at Microsoft today could explain where it came from or why.
Oh, hell no. I swore on Facebook Live. So Roskill, you were going to talk about the agony of creating Visual Studio and all the obstacles, but without mentioning names of the guilty.
Oh, it's just there were a lot of politics going on between the different dev tools groups. So there was Visual Basic and Visual C++ and Fox Pro and Axis, and the idea that everyone should share an IDE and be able to come together with with a sort of a plug-in language module was too much for some people, and so it actually took at least 2, probably 3 or 4 tries to get this thing to actually happen, right? If you go back and think about the different iterations, right? And there were people who argued and said it's not like Office. I remember people saying, Office is like a hammer, a saw, and a screwdriver with PowerPoint, Excel, and Word, and this is like you're getting 5 hammers. You're getting a sledgehammer, a regular hammer, a finishing hammer, and whatever. But in the end, it got everything unified behind it, and that drove a lot of the momentum behind the dev tools at Microsoft. I mean, we were talking about forecasts earlier. I remember our first forecast, we appropriately sandbagged. He was the master of the sandbag forecast. And so it came out, and we did spectacularly well, and and never
Do you
looked
remember
back
what our
ever
revenue
since.
was that year
So,
when we launched it?
it was probably 10 million or something.
No, it was way bigger. It was.
You think so?
We
On-
finished
are you talking
FY.
about all up or just
We
Visual
finished
Studio?
FY '97 Dev Tools. We finished
Oh,
FY '97 at about 550 million.
Yeah, now I'm talking about
way above
Visual
forecast.
Studio.
In year
First year
one,
was
like
probably-
from March to June of that
Yeah,
year.
it's probably 10,
Yeah.
15 million,
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, I mean, it was the march to $1 billion. That's what we were talking about.
So-
How do we get dev tools to $1 billion?
And to John's point, so I used to have the complete set of these, the reviewer's guides for VB and Visual C++, and each of the different products. And I kept one because I remember the work, not just on the dev team side, but coming up with a consistent template that everybody was going to follow to explain their products. And we did it, right? And so by the time these done, these were a beautiful stack of documents in parallel for each of the different products, and we got there. We were like, we stopped saying why, but they couldn't be the same, and we got them to be the same. And I think that was
We're getting some hilarious comments. By the way, those who are watching this, do I have the phone right again, or am I sideways again? Am I supposed to be this way?
and
Whoops.
again, some things haven't changed with you.
I know. So
Wait, so we were talking
Eric
about-
Maffey said, why did VS take over 2 years from preview to actual release? And then
I was at,
It was a very lightweight
Eric,
bundle.
Wait, we have dates. We have dates and documents
It
on
had
two,
the,
two developer dates.
I mean, the big thing was getting all of the components
So
of
is
the
it this
IDE.
way?
I don't know. Get it right.
So I think we should cut to get an engineering perspective on this.
oh,
I was just gonna say in support of your earlier point.
so that's the right way.
I think there was a bit of a
Okay.
split between the planning and
'Cause you're always
strategy that was
saying-
taking place that the three of you were describing, and what was happening in the trenches with
With
the
the
individual
engineering
teams.
teams,
Because
yeah.
I think it was stronger. The difference of opinion was stronger than you perhaps presented it. I think
Yeah.
everyone
But
down
you're
in the
getting all of
trenches
this, aren't you,
said
John?
they don't have an idea of what
You're
they're
getting all
talking about.
this,
This is
right?
this is not going to happen. Like everyone had such a
'Cause that's
strong
the video
identity
we're
around their
doing.
products. The idea of shearing off and coming up with a single IDE and plugging into that.
But remember,
Nobody wanted to do
the single IDE and such was really not much of a factor until later. This first incarnation was not unlike the early version of Office.
Right.
You know, it was a
Put
very,
them all in
it was a
box.
very lightweight bundle. Put it in a box, single pricing scheme.
But people
You
saw
know,
where, it
where
was
you're
going,
trying to
and they-
evangelize a single standard, and and it was.
even single release cycle and all the other stuff. Like,
Chris Williams said, exactly no one thought it had a prayer.
that's exactly my
And Chris Williams was working on the C++ team
Yeah.
with Denis Gilbert, right?
The problem, Chris, is that the definition of it started out as little more than a business plan. We looked at what Office was able to accomplish with integrating, just from a business model perspective, and licensing and sales and the revenue growth that they got by being able to sell 5 licenses for the price of 3 to people who, frankly, would only have bought 1 or 2. Without the bundling, and so we ended up being able to position it that way. And we discovered early on in the days, well,
It was a detached
I was going to say
cross-sell.
even
Right.
before VB, one of the first things that Mike worked on when he first came over was the basic compiler and professional development system, where we found that with a 2% change in the actual compiler, you add the optimizing pass at the end to get a negligible amount of performance improvement. Developers would pay a factor of 5 more without question. These guys are professionals who take great pride in their craft, and they weren't going to have the second best tool set just as a matter of professional pride. And so we decided to just throw gas on that particular fire and create these higher and higher end perceived packaging that people could identify with.
We had a concept for that. It was called TPE. It was Technical Penis Envy.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have the guy down the hall have a
Have a
better
bigger
box.
one.
Yeah, Chris said the common IDE was the big fight. That took years. And then our old
And
friend,
it's still of arguable value.
Yeah,
Could
yeah.
they
Our
have
old
done a
friend
better
Charles
job?
Kelly said, VS just might make it.
And then along came
Yeah.
Visual J++. I forgot about that one.
Yeah,
Well,
Visual J++ was in this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was in that first version. We did the
97,
Sun license.
Yeah.
We signed the license with Sun. Bob knew did in that famous contract negotiation back. Yeah, back in '96. We closed that deal and we got Visual J++ done in a hurry. And that
Andrew Brust said hi.
But what's amazing to me is that 18 months later, it happened again. Like this one was March, and this was March '97, September '98.
Yeah,
18 months.
cranked it out in
And
18
cranked out a
months.
whole nother release.
Yeah,
so this is
we
the org
were-
chart.
That's the org chart, and it's got me as the acting manager of J++, because apparently we didn't
Oh, I
have
love it.
anyone.
Oh, crap.
And so the DOJ, the Justice Department trial around Java, that's why I got into it. I could never understand why I was into it, but that
Oh,
must be
wow.
it. So
Where did you find this?
How do you not keep these?
Where do you, it's paper. Where do you
I
keep it?
I have a folder where I put org charts.
Do you really?
I have.
And he
the
moves
original-
it-
There's a
it around
request
with him.
for Visual Interdeg to come back.
A visual internet demo?
Wait, again, who named Visual Internet?
None of us.
No,
None of
No,
us.
Greg
it's
Lee.
the worst
No,
named.
no. Who named Visual Internet?
So
Wasn't it Silverberg?
No, there were 3 vice presidents in the room. I was in the room.
I was there
crap.
too. Keep
Right.
going up.
There were 3 in the room, and they couldn't agree. And so
Alchin.
they picked the worst name.
Interdev.
No,
was
I
worse,
took,
wasn't it?
No, I think it was Ballmer. He was like,
No.
you're not calling that something cool. You're calling it what it is.
You're-
Visual Internet.
You're calling it the worst possible name that we can come up with.
Because they had some. Greg's proposal was something,
picture of this.
something creative.
Yeah, it was more studio.
More studio-esque.
Is
and
Greg
Yeah, yeah.
Leak watching? Ask him.
No, we had.
I don't
we
know
had,
that I'm friends with Greg Leak.
Oh, we gotta find
Greg Leak, are you out there?
So there was 3 VPs. I think it was Chase, Silverberg, and maybe Moritz in
Moritz?
the room.
Okay.
And no one could agree. We had 3 good names, and they couldn't agree on any of them. And so we picked number 4, which was the worst. And that's how Visual
web
Internet.
dev.
Right.
Oh, web- oh,
Yeah,
my goodness.
That's how Visual Internet got its name. It's by far. It's.
I always blame that on Ballmer and him saying, no, you can't call it that. You have to call it this other
James
thing.
is saying the NT4 option pack should get a vote.
That's the other worst name. We agree.
He
Yeah.
votes for.
Well, if anybody needs any old org charts from...
Did you hear that? If you want an old Microsoft org chart,
that's
Risse is your
actually
man.
This is quite good though. This is Developer Days '98.
Here, let me
There you go.
see.
So we did a lot of these things.
Is that the
Yeah.
one where
Yeah. That's the second
Costas
one. So
Malleus
it talks
got
about.
498,000 people to attend?
I don't know how
Because
much
that
Costas
was
had
in
to do
theory
with
the
it,
total theoretical volume of all of the spaces that he had
They
rented.
rented, yeah. Okay. 51 countries,
Divided by the
120
volume of a
cities,
human.
75,000 developers, and it has Bill Gates' keynote. You see that? So we did. This is
The video.
Remember we were doing Warner was running around renting movie theaters,
Yeah.
right? And that was a big deal.
Yeah. I remember
We
going
gave them popcorn and juji fruits or whatever.
Yeah. That was once upon a time. But we also went to different places, because I remember going to...
Yeah, I went to
I went to
Budapest
Sao
and
Paulo.
Prague.
Okay. Where'd you go?
I think I was in Paris. Yeah.
Where'd
That's a
Tom
good
go?
place.
Who did-
Seattle.
Who did we send to
further than I
Dubai?
did. I was
Somebody
in
got
Redmond.
sent to like Abu
I had to
Dhabi
go
or
to Seattle,
something.
I remember that one.
Oh, no. This...
I had to go all the way downtown. I had to cross the damn
Poor
bridge.
Tom's feeling about international travel.
Yeah.
Why would I want to go to a war zone?
The-
Tom, it's Europe.
Chris Williams
I know!
thinks the fact that you keep this stuff is crazy.
We agree.
Look, it's a binder this thick.
Of
And,
just crap.
and it's just stuff. You just
And
put
it
it
gets
in
better
the,
with time.
And
and
how
you
many
just put it
times
in a
have you
little
moved?
folder. I moved once.
So not too bad.
There's some pretty funny things in there, actually. There are some other artifacts. There are some things I missed. Like I don't have, and I used to have my hands on it, the original Steven Sinofsky review of Lotus Notes. Like before it was Lotus Notes, it was Iris Notes. I
Right,
guess.
right.
And the decision that Microsoft made not to pursue it because Steven Sinofsky said, yeah, it's just it's just a bad database with some other stuff. No worries. Oops. But I had that memo, and I don't have that one in my list anymore, or don't know where that one went. So they're out there somewhere. Wonderful artifacts, all.
I just want to make a note that I've never done one of these before, but this keeps giving me a message that this is your best live video ever.
It's because people are joining like crazy.
You know, if you've never done I've got 100% 1,000% better numbers than any other time I've done this.
So should we digress further and talk about the other things that we can remember?
Oh, jeez.
All the meetings.
No, I need the artifacts to
Blurred.
remind me.
Well, how soon after we launched this did Sun sue us?
Oh, I stayed out of that. That would be you or John. I don't know.
I remember it because
In 96, right?
It was no. I believe that we signed a license with Sun for Java in '96. Launched this in '97, and it was very shortly thereafter when that lawsuit started. And that lawsuit that immediately followed this was the impetus for starting .NET.
And they didn't like the extensions.
No, it was
Going on there,
specifically
right?
the integration of ActiveX extensions with J++.
Yeah.
And
They were co-opting the Java language. So
yeah,
they-
and even
Embrace
though
and extend.
even though
Embrace
even though we had
extension.
explicit rights in our Java license with Sun to make extensions to Windows, they relied on the preamble of that contract that had some foofy language about in order to have write once, run anywhere, we would collaborate on this, and they're licensing it to us. But it was very shortly after this launch they ended up suing us on the basis of the preamble. You know, at the height of all the DOJ crap related to Internet Explorer, they were trying to capitalize on public opinion in order to drive us out of competition in Java, and it was very shortly thereafter. It was, you know, I want to say '98 when finally Brad Lovering, John Shuchuk, you know, got sent into a room by Paul Moritz and told, "Don't come out until you come up with a better platform than Java." And it took us, 4 years after that to finally.
And that was the
launch
common language runtime.
Common language runtime, you know.
CLR.
Yeah, the programming model, the new object model, not only the execution, but also the XML-based, lightly late-bound, loosely coupled programming model in XML.
Stotland's on here. He said, we don't allow people to do things, we enable them.
Yeah.
Yes!
Thank you, Stotland!
Thank you, Doug Silent. I still strike allowed from any material I read to this day. It is always enable and never allow. I like to tell people writing it, we're not running an S&M club here. We're running a marketing factory, so it's enable, not allow. Yes. I'm glad I made that lasting
yeah,
impression.
so Stotland's back at you.
Wait, so was Anders Heidelberg part of that team as well?
He
Or was
came over just after Gross did.
But for the
another
J++?
one. Yeah, he came on
Specifically?
and worked on the CLR.
I think he was
Yeah.
the CLR and J++, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
like I
that's
said,
right.
I don't have no artifacts,
Shortly
no memory.
after Paul joined, remember there was limos picking people up outside Borland. And another lawsuit, I think, followed
Okay.
after that, fairly certain.
All right, so somebody, an analyst I'm working with sent me something this morning to give me a hard time. Citizen programmers. I'm like, yeah, because citizen data scientists don't exist and citizen programmers don't. So she sent me this thing, Citizen, which reminded me of, once upon a time, remember end user programming? What was the name of Borland's Visual Basic competitor?
Delphi?
No, that was their VB competitor. They
Oh,
had
right.
they had
Oh.
Philippe Kahn's son was in the ads for something.
Oh, the little
That-
curly-haired kid?
Yes.
Not Turbo Pascal.
No.
Like
but it
Alpha.
was
No, it was like
some-
it was something like HyperCard. It was their
exactly.
It was their object. It was object something.
So stitch stuff together and
Yes, but I remember. So I was saying, look, people have tried end user programming or citizen programming. It used to be called end user programming. HyperCard, Object Vision.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think it
Object
was
Vision.
Object
Borland?
Vision.
Yeah,
All right.
That's right.
So Object Vision.
Because remember that asymmetrics thing was called something like that, too.
That was HyperCard, wasn't it?
No, that was
HyperCard was
HyperCard
Apple.
was
Yeah.
Apple.
Right. Oh, that's right.
90.
remember the citizens
like
program, like
87,
Gardner.
88, Apple came out.
Gardner, like I remember Daryl Plummer once wrote the thing about you could walk into a mall and throw a dart and hit a VB programmer. That was one of the best quotes. So,
Well,
Yeah.
well, it's earlier. The quote that I still come back to is Steve Gibson's original quote about Visual Basic. There's nothing like it in the future. Nothing won't be like it. But that was VB-ish.
Yeah.
Obviously before the Visual Studios. That comment still seems prescient. Like when your kid's coming up and they have statement completion, like showing you the program and they have statement completion. And I'm like,
IntelliSense.
do you know where that
Those
came
ones,
from?
yeah.
And they look at it like, yeah, whatever, Dad. but it's fun to see those things, continue to pop up. That part I remember.
Good old days.
Yeah.
When we did
Alright.
Enterprise Edition, I remember these guys reviewing it and going, anything that needs to call itself Enterprise
I know.
Edition is and it wasn't ready yet, but we still, it was pretty
We just
good.
kept
We got-
naming everything Enterprise, and before
we got
too
the
long,
price
we
up.
were.
Well, and we did this press release where I remember I went through the database. So back in the day, you used to get you get a box and it would have a card in it. It was like this big, the registration card. And
Yeah.
people used to actually fill them out. And so we had like 70% of the people were sending them in. And so we went through the database by hand, and we lined it up with the Fortune 500, and we found that we had like 498 of the Fortune 500 had somebody in the organization using Visual Basic.
Yep.
And so we issued a press release about how our enterprise how ready it was.
99.6% of the Fortune 500.
This is why
Using
people don't
Visual
trust
Basic.
numbers.
Do you
From
remember why we had the such a high return rate on those cards, though?
Well, they wanted to stay informed on what's
There
going
was
on, the bug
something,
fixes
this
and
sounds
stuff.
familiar.
No, it was, we figured out early on that we could advertise, like, for example, VB1, we could advertise a $99 price. After return of your registration, we gave you a $100 rebate. It was $199
So they're getting a discount.
after. Yeah, and so we literally gave you
Forced the
$100 for
response.
returning the reg card.
Yeah. Well, people,
And we found that the return rate on those reg cards, even with a $100 return, was still, under 50%. It was like 20 or 30%, but it was
Well, I remember
much
when
higher than we were getting
when I
otherwise.
started, Office was 30 and Tools was like 60. And so it was like twice what everything else was. And part of it was they did get bug fix updates and stuff.
Oh, and they wanted to be on our
but-
list. They wanted to get the information.
Yeah.
It was before email, and so there was no
Oh, yeah.
efficient web
Uh-huh.
marketing, and it was the only way that they found out what was coming up.
Oh, yeah, the days before the internet.
Well, the other thing was, do you remember the catalog? The catalog was
Oh, yeah.
a big part
oh
of it.
yeah,
I
the
have one.
Fawcett catalog.
I didn't bring
Of
it.
course you
I
have
didn't
one.
bring
How do you forget that? I mean, that was everything. That we canceled our ad budget entirely in order to build that catalog, in order
Right.
to fund Jim Fawcett in creating a marketing vehicle for all of these DLL writers that we cajoled into becoming custom control vendors.
How come they're all retired now?
All the custom control vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Novus
Mark
is
Novoselic,
down in
and
Las
Novus
Vegas
One.
playing.
Oh yeah, that
Gustavo.
Ethan Weiner is
Ethan
doing
Weiner.
music. Yeah.
There was
Infragistics
something-
guys, I
There
think,
was
girl.
something we saw the other day, Gustavo Edelson or something his name was.
Yep.
He was
Gustavo
in some
Edelstein.
fiction that we found.
Yep.
I think
Mike
I'm-
Sachs.
Mike
I think I'm
Sachs.
friends with
He's
all
still
of them
around, isn't he?
on.
Sachs is still around.
Yeah, Sachs and Gustavo are both still around.
Who
What
are-
about Wong?
No. Oh, I don't know that one.
Gene Wong was the Harvard MBA who worked at Borland, who was like
No, there was a vendor.
Oh, my
like,
goodness. Yeah.
Visual something.
Visual Wong.
Okay,
Is that
now.
what you're trying to say?
That's
now.
what I'm trying to
Off the
say.
table.
Thanks, Tom, for clarifying.
Oh, jeez. Who are the graph guys? The graphs.
Not Crystal Reports.
Not Crystal Reports. Who built the,
Oh,
built the
graphs
charting
in
package?
our stuff.
Crystal?
Yeah.
No, Crystal didn't build it. We replaced something with Crystal, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
do you
the one
mean
we worked
rational stuff?
No.
Pinnacle.
This predates that.
Pinnacle.
Yeah, I remember that.
Had the graphing package, and then we
yeah,
switched
yeah.
over to another charting or graphic. I think it was Crystal. Joe Sheridan.
Right.
Yeah,
he-
Sheridan.
Joe
Sheridan
Modica.
No, Joe Modica.
Joe Modica.
Sheridan.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
Long Island.
Long Island on Long Island. Yeah. So I'm just, I wonder where Joe. Is
That-
Joe there today?
That was a
Got-
big part of
I
it.
don't.
though.
You know, I don't know.
I don't know where he is.
Well, the Infragistics guys, I've asked them, do you see Joe ever? And they're like, yeah, he's still around. He's mostly retired, but
How
still
come he's
around.
retired too? What are we doing wrong?
We're doing it wrong.
Tom is retired. This is his hobby.
This is
I tried retirement. It's overrated.
I think, yeah, well, we're staying busy on that side. So other things from days of yore. in Visual
Look at the
Studio.
picture behind you.
That's way yore. That's pre-me yore.
That's
So I
pretty-
remember
That was Rick Rad.
one of my all-time
He was my
favorite
intern
moments
in
was
that.
we did a Geek Fest at Comdex in Las Vegas. And it was the cheap beer and bad pizza and whatever other way around, cheap
What
pizza
time
and
frame?
bad beer.
Cheap beer, lousy
This was
pizza.
like 96, 97.
This one where we destroyed the room.
And
No, that
we
was
had-
New York.
So we
That
had
was
we had a
all of them.
warehouse.
That was-
Now this is a warehouse. There's not much you could have done to it. We had about 5,000
Try.
people show up, and we gave them. We brought Nerf Gatling guns.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
yeah.
you had thousands of people running around with these Nerf Gatling
And we
guns.
had we got those leftover things from a sales meeting that we were doing skeet shooting. Is it that one?
Yeah, I don't. You guys found them somewhere, but the thing was so cool was there was so much ammo because every one of these things had 6 of those Nerf arrow things, and so there's 30,000 pieces of ammo on the floor, so you could just reload, reach down and reload and go again. And I just remember everyone running around. It was so much fun.
No spilled beer, just as a guess.
Yeah, no.
spilled
Well,
beer.
we had raided one of the warehouses, and we got these hideous masks that they had used for a sales meeting. And so we did we'd throw them up in the air and then try and shoot them. And of course they broke when they fell. They didn't break in the air. But anyway, it was a New Orleans sales meeting.
Oh,
In
jeez.
Atlanta, we did a party at Lulu's Bait Shack. That
Oh,
was
remember
pretty
how
good.
we got everybody just so wasted at that one?
I just remember people up on the bar dancing. I
Naked.
have a hat left from that
We
one.
have pictures of that. I don't have that in my artifact list.
Yeah, that's only a story. That was a misstep on my part in that, I don't drink, and so I didn't know what grain alcohol was, and it was cheap, remember?
So you just ordered it.
And so they said, when do you want to stop? And I'm like, well, at this price, go all night. It turns out you're supposed to cut that off.
Before people die.
Yeah, exactly. And I had no idea, and then I found out, because people were like, remember there were like VPs who were on the bar naked and stuff. It was like, I'd never seen stuff like that before. I, of course, hadn't drank any of it.
That one I do not recall.
Yeah, that was a good
What
one.
was that dude on program management? Joe P or something?
Joe P?
There was Joe Q, who was the nutcase who brought me in his office to show me his gun. It worked for Chris
Rightly on.
Williams, I think.
Yeah.
So it
Joe
opens the
P.
drawers. Like
Joe P.
is the guy who had the crazy hair, right?
Right, who was into gliding.
Like the first time.
Here I am.
He's the one who died. Like, if you gave him a blue Visual Basic shirt, it would come in the next day, it'd be black. Like, just
Yeah, all I did was wear
clothing in
black. That's
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Don't say anything, I'll get a suit. Any of it.
Yeah.
No names, no names.
Black shirts matter.
Black shirt, yeah. Yeah. Like, exactly.
Protest lining up.
There you go. All right. That's all I remember.
So, Rico, you were on the product side. Any crazy stories of? Here's all
Remember who
the.
the test lab was named after?
Well, this predates Visual Studio, but yeah, it kind of relates to the.
The same author of that book that Paul Gross referenced in his first press release.
So
What was-
when I first joined the company, they weren't ready for me on day one, which happened occasionally back in those days. So they shoved me in the test lab, and as I walked in, I noticed that there was a nameplate on the door. And I said, and I wasn't aware of what the competitive landscape looked like at the time, but I went and I asked somebody. I said, "So who's Buck Forland?"
And you left a room with him.
Am I in his office?
Yeah.
No,
Where is
you
Buck?
just have to scramble those around a little bit.
And Buck had a long career at Microsoft. He did make it all the way to this product launch. Paul Gross was particularly happy that John Roskill made sure that we referenced Buck's latest book published.
In the accidental press release.
In the press release, it actually made it through every level of
Yeah,
review.
2 3 print PR reviews.
Yep,
2
everybody at
reviews,
Wagner
and-
Edstrom approved it. Everybody internal approved
Out on
it.
the internet. I was actually sitting on the beach at Martha's Vineyard when I went, is there any way that just came back to me? And then sure enough, it went out. And then there was quiet, silence for like 2 weeks. And then some guy in Sweden figured it out.
Yeah.
Right? And then
And
what
it was
his
the
name?
Borland guys, because
David-
they erupted
No, this guy in
rapidly
Sweden
within
then
Borland.
told David Intersimonia, right, was his
Oh,
name?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then suddenly,
And
that's
they're
what-
debating whether they should sue us over referencing a fictitious book by Buck Forland. I remember Paul Gross, my new boss, who'd come down, just a few months before this launch. And for him, this was a big deal. It
came
was-
from Borland.
Yeah, he was fresh from Borland, 3 months earlier, when all of this stuff was getting finalized, and he had just taken us on our first, California-style retreat where we all went to the Salish Lodge and tried to feed us granola and get us massages. I remember that first. Sorry, Paul. I remember that first offsite well.
that was his
Anyway,
welcoming
and
gift?
then Paul emailed me and he asked me how did this happen. And I remember debating whether I should reveal John's name to Paul, and I think I didn't. At the
I
time.
don't know,
I
he
said,
came out,
yeah.
so I remember, and we were
I
like
assured him
an
it was
all
just a
hands.
placeholder. It wasn't intentional, but
That was an awesome. That,
remember we were
that was
all
almost
hands,
as
like
good as
1,000
announcing
people.
La La Land winning Best Picture.
yeah.
One of that quality of error.
So one of the
In our
story,
little world, it
one of the
was.
stories that stands out as we're digressing a little bit is, so it wasn't Visual Studio. It might have been V before Enterprise Edition. We were doing a launch and it was in London, and so we flew to London, and we were going to have like 1,000 people in London, and it was me and Risse were going to
Yeah.
do the launch,
Yeah.
and we brought along
I have a
Randy
picture.
Kath because we
Oh,
had
right,
back
I remember
office.
this. Yeah, yeah.
We had back office.
Randy
So-
Cat.
Hey, so Randy
Remember,
goes
I'm
out the
friends
night-
with
the night
Randy.
I
before,
remember this. Sorry, Randy.
disappears.
Sorry, Randy.
We don't hear from Randy. We don't know what happened. He brought some girl with him, right? And so we get up the next morning. We're out in Wembley Stadium, which is like 45 minutes outside in central London.
Oh, boy.
And Risse and I are there at like 7:30, and the thing starts at 9. And we're getting everything set up, and we're like, well, where's Randy? And so it's now like 8.
He was supposed to run the demo.
He was
Wasn't he
supposed
the
to do
demo
the
guy?
barrel. He flew to London first class just to do the demo, right? A 10-minute demo. Anyway, so at like 8:15 we call, and he's like, oh man, I'm asleep, I'm hungover, I can't make it. And we're like, look, we'll cover for you, move the demo to the end, and you get on the train and come on out, and he just blew us off. So Risse stepped up and did the demo.
I have a picture of
And-
this.
And
Yeah.
when Randy submitted the expense report, I think he worked
I
for
remember
me.
this. I
We
remember
tore it
this.
up.
Yeah.
Randy ate a $6,000 plane ticket to London. I remember that one. So
I remember that.
I remember the conversation I had with him when he got back.
yeah.
By the way,
I just remember a lot of those Comdexes, where I was always having to get all these lamos to do booth duty, and they'd come, they wouldn't show up because they were hungover.
Right.
Guess how sympathetic a Mormon is to your hangover?
highly,
Highly,
Extremely?
yeah.
or mostly.
Mormons for hangovers. Screw you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
well,
All right. Well, I guess
All right.
that's it until we do the 40th anniversary.
All right, well, say goodbye, everyone.
James, I hope you're well in Sicily. Take care. Eric, good luck. Andrew, hello. Who else? Anybody else?
Charles Kelly.
All
Charles
right.
Kelly. Oh my
Chris
goodness.
Williams.
Who else?